What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Primetime Sports Podcast, hosted by Joey Maylari. So I do apologize. My voice has been going through it, so I do apologize. Hopefully you can understand everything I'm saying tonight. It's going to be a very quick episode. Pleasure being back in the studio. Just had class. So being able to come back in here, just like I used to when I was an undergrad, is definitely something special. A lot's been going on in the NBA. I've been meaning to talk about it. Just really haven't gotten a moment over the last few days. But in this episode, it's going to be really quick, probably around 20 minutes. I'm just going to give a quick breakdown of the Luka Doncic and Anthony Davis trade between the Lakers and the Mavericks. And then if I get a minute, at the end, I will talk about the De'Aaron Fox trade as well, where Sacramento sent him actually to San Antonio, a destination that I talked about just about a month or so ago on here, live on air. I mentioned that San Antonio would be a good spot for De'Aaron, and that is where he ends up going actually in a big blockbuster trade over the last few days. So let's start off with the Lakers and the Mavericks. I mean, I didn't expect this trade at all. I was out on Saturday night. I looked at my phone and I saw Luka Doncic. The headline was, Luka Doncic traded to the Los Angeles Lakers. And at that point, I don't know who was involved in the trade, but I knew if the Lakers are going to go and trade for him with a new collective bargaining agreement over the last few years in the NBA, they would not be able to land Luka Doncic in his contract without trading either Anthony Davis or LeBron James. So I knew right away one of those two guys was gone. My quick flash instinct was that one of those two guys is gone. And of course, it ends up being Anthony Davis. And I was shocked by this move. And I think every person in the NBA world, whether you're a Mavericks fan, Lakers fan, Clippers fan like me, Celtics fan, Toronto Raptors fan, it doesn't matter what team you're a fan of, nobody expected this trade to go down. I think if you asked 100 people on Friday, so the day before Luka Doncic got traded, if you asked 100 NBA fans, is there a chance Luka Doncic is traded not only just this year, but in the next 3 seasons, I think probably 99 out of 100, if not all 100, would have said no chance Luka Doncic was traded. And that obviously ends up not being the case. Luka Doncic is on his way to the Lakers, and obviously now he's already cleared his physical. Anthony Davis has cleared it. The trade is now officially official. And that's the crazy thing about this move, is nobody would have ever expected 2 all-NBA players from the prior season, last year they were both all-NBA players, to be traded for in the next season. And that's the first time in NBA history 2 all-NBA players from the prior season were traded in that next season for each other, which is pretty crazy. And supposedly Rob Pelinka, the general manager of the Los Angeles Lakers, and Nico Harrison, the general manager of the Dallas Mavericks, were in talks about a month ago about an AD Luka trade. But they kept it locked up, no rumors. And obviously, it's really impressive that no rumors leaked, because that's usually always what happens. But clearly, they kept it really tight behind the doors. But the Lakers did trade Anthony Davis, a guy who obviously won them in NBA Finals in 2020. But they traded him not because they thought Anthony Davis is no longer a great player. There were reports that they didn't believe he was a 1A. But I think when you watch Anthony Davis's game today, you still can see he is a very talented player. But they had some doubts that he was a 1A, meaning the number 1 option on a winning team. And they also weren't confident that they wanted to re-sign him this summer. So they said, you know what, if he's not a 1A building block, and he's also not a guy we want to re-sign to a big deal this summer, we might as well trade him. So the Lakers did worry about Anthony Davis. They worried about availability. They worried about durability. And he's 31 years old right now. And I've been critical of Anthony Davis in the past, but I think a lot of people that are doubting him right now, saying he's still injury prone, haven't seen Anthony Davis play over the last 2 seasons. And trust me, I am a guy that has criticized Anthony Davis in the past, live on air here. When I was on air, back when I was a senior, when I was a junior here at BC, live on air in this very studio that I'm in right now, I was criticizing Anthony Davis for his availability. And right now what I could say is Anthony Davis has proven me wrong over the last 2 seasons. And I know injury history can always come into play, and I know you can have a few good seasons in a row and stay healthy, and then obviously the injury bug can come. And I'm obviously not wishing that on Anthony Davis at all. But I think a lot of people that are doubting Anthony Davis right now and saying he's always injury prone, they haven't watched him play over the last 2 seasons. Anthony Davis only missed 6 games last season, and he's already missed about 7 or 8 games this year. But he only missed 6 games last season and only 7 of about 50 games this season. He's shown up to play each of the last 2 seasons. And honestly, he's kept the Lakers in a lot of games. He's been the best player on the Lakers each of the last 2 seasons. And that's not a knock on LeBron James, but Anthony Davis has been great for the Lakers. He's kept them in a lot of games. Take it from someone that's watched NBA games every night over the last 2 seasons. When I get home at night, whether I'm coming home from work, whether I'm coming home from school, whether I'm coming home from going out, I always turn on the TV to go watch an NBA game every single night. I've watched a lot of Lakers games over the last 2 years. Anthony Davis is still a very high-quality player, and he's been healthy for the most part over the last 2 seasons. So that's from the Lakers' perspective. They saw durability as an issue, and they also didn't want to pay him. From the Mavericks side, they traded Luka Doncic because reports said that they grew frustrated with him about his lack of effort, his lack of conditioning, and they didn't want to commit to a 5-year, $346 million Supermax contract extension this summer. Instead, now the most he can get from the Lakers is 5 years, $229 million. 5 years, $229 million, which is a difference of $117 million. Fact, Journey also just bought a house for $15 million in Dallas, reports said, over the last few months. So he just lost himself a lot of money in this trade. And obviously a player can't usually choose to be traded, and there were no reports that he requested a trade, so this was all against essentially his will. He didn't really want to be traded, it seems like. But the reality is he lost $117 million in this deal, from what he could have got in a Supermax deal to what he's going to get now in a max contract with Dallas. Or I should say, with the Los Angeles Lakers. Luka's only 25 years old. Only 25. But there were reports, right when the trade went down, that he's up to 270 pounds for his weight, which would make him the 7th heaviest player in the NBA. And that's something that Dallas and Nico Harrison were worried about. And I'm someone that's never been that big of a Luka Doncic fan. I've always thought he was somewhat overrated. But I do admit he's still a very talented player and a very productive player as well. When you trade a player at 25 years old, especially with the stats he's been putting up, and obviously what he's been able to show, he carried a team to the NBA Finals last year and obviously didn't end up winning, but did get a team through a tough Western Conference last year. I think it's really tough to trade a guy when he's 25 years old. But it just shows there was more going on behind the scenes. You don't go and trade Luka Doncic at 25 years old just to do it. Just like Mookie Betts getting traded from the Boston Red Sox. Chaim Bloom does not trade Mookie Betts just because he wants to trade him. That was the decision from higher up. There were more things going on behind the scenes. The Red Sox didn't want to pay Mookie Betts. So they said, you know what? Go out and trade him. Here with Luka Doncic, I don't think it was that same situation. But I do think there was something going on behind the scenes maybe between Nico Harrison, maybe some executives with Dallas, saying, hey, Luka, you got to commit to showing a little bit more effort on defense. Maybe you have to commit to showing a little bit more dedication to conditioning. And maybe that was something he didn't want to do. So I think there was something going on behind the scenes that we're not going to know about. And we might never know about. But I do admit, Luka Doncic is still a top player in this league. But I do see conditioning as a worry. Add in his lack of hustle at times, his liability on defense at times. LeBron and him, both of them like to argue calls a lot. There's going to be some 5-on-3s against the Lakers over the next, whatever it is, how many years LeBron and Luka play together. Which, honestly, the way I feel right now, if I'm the Lakers, I would think about trading LeBron James. And I know that sounds crazy. I know it sounds crazy. But where the Lakers stand right now, I don't think they're necessarily in a better position right now to win the NBA Finals with LeBron James and Luka Doncic than they were when they had LeBron and AD. I think maybe in the future, the long-term future, the Lakers might be better off because you got a 25-year-old superstar right now. And this is a guy that, as I said, I've been critical of, but he's still a very, very good player. And you're getting him at 6 years younger than what Anthony Davis is right now. But LeBron James and Anthony Davis obviously had a tougher ending. The last couple of years did not go their way. And I think if you look at their tenure together, they did win an NBA Finals together. So that's most important. They won an NBA Finals ring together. And I think a lot of people are going to look at that trade and say, hey, this is not, necessarily what Kevin Durant and James Harden and Kyrie Irving were in Brooklyn, where that was obviously just a complete bust and a fail, and I think is the biggest what-ifs in NBA history. And I still think about that situation, that big three of James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant not winning a ring together. I still think about that every single day. That team crosses my mind. And it's just fascinating that team could not find a way to win. And I think that situation would have been similar to what we see right now with the Lakers. if LeBron James and Anthony Davis did not win a ring together, I do think people would have looked at them as a big what if. Because Anthony Davis was in his prime when he got traded over to the Lakers. And obviously ended up working out, and LeBron wanted Anthony Davis, and that ended up being the case. LeBron went out and obviously pleaded to get AD. And I think it's obviously not a complete fail. I know the last 3 years were a miss, but when you win an NBA Finals ring, it's never a complete fail. So their tenure together was a success. And I do have some texts from people that are listening right now, and I do agree. I do think LeBron James wanted Luka Doncic. I do. And I don't really believe the reports that LeBron was out to dinner with his family in New York City after beating the Knicks on Saturday night, and he came to find out that AD just got traded. I think LeBron James gave his blessing in this trade. I really do. When you're LeBron James, and you're essentially the guy that the league looks for, when something goes down in the NBA, there's a rule change, whether there's something that should change in the collective bargaining agreement, LeBron James gets a lot of pull. And I think he got pull in this trade. I don't think AD gets traded without LeBron James giving it okay. I really don't. And I think LeBron is going to say, obviously, that he had nothing to do with it, and that's probably the right thing to say, because you never want to say that you're a player making trades or negotiating trades. But I do think that LeBron James had something to do with this. And I agree with the people that are texting me right now saying that they think LeBron had a hand in this. Because LeBron James, when you're LeBron, you're going to get what LeBron wants. That's the reality. LeBron James wanted Bronny. There were some teams that wanted to pick him around the 50th overall pick. And those teams basically got told by Bronny's agent, hey, he's not going to play for you. He's only going to play for the Lakers. And what happens? Bronny falls to, I think it was the 55th overall pick, and ends up a Laker. Because that's what LeBron wanted. So there's obviously a lot of what ifs. What if Anthony Davis stayed in LA? Would they have had a chance to win an NBA Finals ring? One more run between LeBron and AD. What if the Los Angeles Lakers now decide to trade LeBron James? There's a lot of what ifs we won't know the answer to, especially right now. Especially with this situation. But I think where the Lakers currently stand right now, I do think they're somewhat a better team in the future. Long term, they're a better team. But in the short term, I don't know necessarily if the Lakers are in a better spot. Because I think Anthony Davis kept them in a lot of games, especially defensively. The Lakers now have a liability on defense in the paint. Not having Luka Doncic or not having Anthony Davis in the paint is a big liability. Luka Doncic is not necessarily a great defensive player. He's not. He lacks hustle and isn't great defensively. He's a liability on defense. So the Lakers aren't necessarily a better team in the short term. I don't think they are. I think the Dallas Mavericks are a better team in the short term. So that's my current standing on this trade. I'm going to give some more thoughts. I do have to run out of the studio, but I do appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to this. I know it was a very quick episode. Going to give more of my thoughts at the end of this episode when I upload it online. But thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen to this. As always, I appreciate it. I hope you guys have a good one. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you guys all for taking the time to listen. As I said, it is always much appreciated. Take care and have a great night. Thank you.